Hello, welcome to Loremaster's Lair. I'm your Loremaster, here today for another jaunt through the Galarian solar system, through the Pact Worlds. Today we are stopping at the planet which, at the time of Starfinder, is known as one of the origins of the Pact Worlds government itself, Verces. So, let's dive straight in. Verces is unique as a planet which is Tidal-locked, which means that as it travels around the Sun, one side will always be facing toward the Sun, and the other side will always be facing away. This has led to the planet being divided into three sections: the hot deserts of Fulbright, the frozen tundras of Darkside, and the temperate zone which sits in between. It is here that Verces flourished. The main inhabitants of the planet are the Verthani. They look similar to humans, but they tend to be taller, lankier, have the ability to shift the pigments of their skin, and have solid eyes like those of a mouse. Traditionally, the Verthani have divided themselves into three castes: pure ones, augmented, and god vessels. Pure ones are those without augmentations, being in charge of farming and many governmental jobs, being given a special position in the traditional system due to their unchanged state. Augmented are those who have used technology to enhance their bodies, allowing them to act in positions like warriors or space pilots. Finally, the god vessel emblazons the holy symbol of the deity on their skin, spreading the words of the planet's deities. By the time of Starfinder, however, the tides are shifting, and the traditional positions of the castes have all but disappeared. That said, the Augmented are not just a group among the Verthani, as we see in our first side tangent, the part of the show where we work to improve. Starting off the night, we have the Augmented. Well, the group started as one of the three Verthani castes. The increase of communication across the planets led to reverence of cybernetic enhancements to spread rapidly. Cybernetics are common, but for the Augmented, they are everything, something they discard as much flesh as possible to achieve. The mouthpieces of the movement, the Cyber Conclave, live on in Verces, but so do Augmented terrorists, like the Remakers and the Next Step, groups who believe that evolution does not need consent. Outside of the Verthani, the planet is also home to many of the first Shirin who settled after entering the system. They established towns right onto the bright side right off the Ring of Nations, and many of their colonies still remain today, and they will be covered in just a little bit. Another species which is not native to the planet is the Strix. After the disappearance of Galarian, the Strix somehow found their way here and have co-opted a tower on Fulbright as their new home. Lesser so, humans and Kothas have also been found in the Ring of Nations. One more creature of note comes from the dark side, creatures known as Blood Brothers. These mysterious beings have no known origins, outside of rumors they were results of ancient biological augmentations instead of the typical mechanical. Regardless of origin, these creatures are known to capture other creatures and make them a part of their bodies, circulating their blood through the still living beings. The temperate ring of the planet contains 29 nations, which have over the years formed into a single planetary government, the Ring of Nations, and their leaders, the Grand Assembly. It was the Ring of Nations which inspired the government form of the Pact Worlds, and Verces was of course one of the first planets to sign. Also coming from Verces are the Stewards, those who were once the planetary police whose job was to keep the planet's order. Not now they have expanded to encircle the entire solar system. Which, looking at the planetary origins of the Thirds, let's also take a look at their current form as side tangent 2. The Stewards have always been a non-governmental organization working to keep the Ring of Nations in the Alliance. Now, with the Pact Worlds, they do the same for the wider government. Warriors and diplomats who have renounced all other allegiances, dedicated to the planets and their citizens. Not always welcome, mind you, because some just blatantly hate the government and others are not fans of more gods walking in. However, the stewards are loyal to their duties, and will do things like refuse to follow criminals who leave the solar system. Therefore, some prefer to defer to other militaristic organizations for extra muscle, like the Knights of Galorian or the Skyfire Mandate. Each nation on the planet is proud of its particular customs. However, compared to other planets in the Pact Worlds, the culture stands mostly homogeneous, being under one government since the times of Eridan, giving them all strong ties to each other. The three-caste system has been an important part of the culture for as long as any can remember, but today, when almost everyone except those of the most traditionalists choose to get augmentations, even the most benign, the caste system's hold is falling out of favor. However, there are still some traditions that are going strong, like plural marriages. At times when one could only marry a pure one, it was not common for two lovers to both marry the same pure one, and multiple people relationships are still common on the planet to this day. Most sports on the planet involve the use of augmentations, though a pure one league for non-augmented sports does still exist. Of course, not everyone is going to fit in the perfect order, and this is where the outlaw kingdoms come about. These are non-nations which can be found beyond the temperate zone, beyond the established countries, and live by their own rules. This means mostly a raider lifestyle, working to steal the energies produced on either side to give themselves a chance to survive in the unforgivable region. They usually have their own caste systems outside the typical one the planet has, and many are ready to take in refugees and outsiders. So now, on to the geography and locations. First, we start with the Ring of Nations, the 29 nations which are in the temperate zone. Of the nations, we have a few that deserve mentioning. First is Vimal, the nation which serves as the home of both the General Assembly and the Stewards, so the closest thing the planet has to a capital. Kelshock, in turn, is home to the Cyber Collective and the Augmented, being the home of cutting-edge technology in all forms. Athalo were once pirates on the planet's main rivers, who now turn their naval expertise into spaceflight, though they still like taking money. Obashi is the nation connected to the Skylock space station, the station which allowed the planet to become the first to produce spaceflight, even back in Pathfinder times. As you would imagine, this makes Obashi one large port town. Shubu is essentially a large national park, being said to be a place in which life originated on the planet. Zapakar and Okartha are known as the Twin Nations, tied together as the Conservative Nations. Zapakar specializes in farming, and Okartha, I think I pronounced that different both times, but Okartha is mining. Finally, the River of Returning Joy is the name of a carnival continuously circling the planet, the arrival of which is always a joy to the people. The Ring of Nations is also home to our third side tangent, Ringworks Industries, one of the system's oldest corporations, stretching back since the times of Pathfinder. They are the ones who built the first space-ready vessels in the system, and their brand has been associated with spaceflight as long as anyone can recall. They are the old reliable, made to last a decade and not having small aesthetic changes every few years. But do not mistake them for boring. The ships being loved by daredevils for the speeds they are able to travel. Next on to Fulbright side, Cadell is a stone spire rising from the center. Once home to metal-ringed humanoids, now it is mysteriously populated by the Strix, with the origin and interiors of the spire remaining a mystery. Mafenthra is one of the settlements on the Fulbright side for the raiders, and the only permanent raider camp, being where they bury their dead. Camshaft is the main home to another group of raiders, this being where the Wrecking Court, the 5 strongest raiders, rule the Mad Max-style group. There are also many Shivan cities on Brightside, still densely populated despite most of their people trading in for the city life. Outside of settlements, we have temples built at hidden oases, solar farms that the bands love to raid, and mountain ranges, creating livable shade. The Fulbright also holds the location of our final side tangent of the day, the Zamkan Commune. The commune lies in perpetual shade, carved into a cliffside as many caves for meditation. Said to have been founded by the first Shivan to break away from the swarm, the commune is known for both its extreme asceticism as well as its annual riddle competition every 3 years. However, the purpose of the monastery is for people who need to break away from bad civilizations and choices they have made, staying away from the worst influences, while learning how to think about the consequences of the choices they made. Finally, let's take a look at the dark side. White Wave is a fishing village which refuses to be part of the nation of Othello. Lampro is a town of multi-eyed creatures called Intis, who survive the cold not simply by not having blood. The fastness of the ordered mind are a series of monastic temples who are obsessed with the planet's ice, to the point of freezing themselves and letting the waters melt into them. Koi's Caves is the place which seems to be the home of the Blood Brothers, and the singing rifts are strange, carved caverns which cause haunting melodies when the wind blows through. And that brings us to the end of today's episode. We're actually pretty close to finishing our Pact World journey, just a few more places to explore. But those will be for another time. Next week we are going to be taking a look at one of the more interesting playable ancestries of 1E. See you then.